everyone, it's Byron here from Black Ops Toys, and today we're here to show you some custom 1/6 scale stands that I've been making with some custom materials, and we're going to start putting these up in a couple different styles. Here's two of the styles. So here with our Great Indiana Jones, we have just like a basic earth look with some little grass tufts and some sticks. And then over here we have a more of a snowy, like frosted look, not necessarily snow, but more like a tundra frost look with more sticks. And I'm going to kind of go through the process of like how these are made and what we use. So typically we'll just use any black regular stand, like this would be a sideshow stand, these are coup model stands, and we'll add a little bit of this Vallejo basing texture, which is amazing texture for dioramas and displays. These are both done in the brown earth, which is this right here. It's just like a very thick sandy paste that when applied it looks like actual dirt. This is a more snow texture, which is one we also have in, and then we're getting a couple other types of dirt that we'll do as well. So the first step you do is you take these and you'll just apply a thin coat across the base wherever you want it on the base. It'll typically take a day or two to dry, depends on how thick it is. And then when you're done with that, you come through and you wash it with what's called a shade paint, or a wash. This is just a very, very thin paint that has its different shades. So this is more of a green, this is more of a brown. These are both done in the brown. This one is heavily dry brushed, so you can't really see it, but if you can see the color difference here, this is how it gets applied as a base. It is this color, and this is the wash. It definitely tones everything down, makes it much more darker, earthier, and you can do that with any color. You can do it with green, you can do it with white, you can do it with brown, and it just creates these different shadings. It puts this this paint is very, very thin, so it'll seep into the little recesses and give the shadows a little bit more shadow. And then we have some different materials. These are all from Army Painter. Here we have a snow battlefield, so this is extra snow texture that you could sprinkle onto something. We have the brown battleground, which is just little pebbles and rocks. If you zoom in closely on this stand right here, you can see down in there those little rocks that are just positioned ever, just little sprinkles of rocks. It just adds a little bit more depth and texture to the already textured base. And then we have some larger rocks, which are like these. I think these are cork rock, and this you would apply these like as you put on the thicker texture paint, because as the texture paint dries, it kind of dries into like a rubbery material. It's not very hard, so it won't chip or anything. It's very, very rubbery. You can put these on there as it's drying, and then those will dry to the basing texture. Add a little bit of rocks. And then the final step that I've done with these, this is definitely more heavily done, but is dry brushing. And if you don't know what dry brushing is, it's basically taking a very wide or thick brush, loading it with paint, and then wiping all of that paint off to where you just have dry pigment left on your brush. And then you take the brush and you lightly just hit the very tops of all of the little edges. And as you can see on this one especially, it's done a little bit here with a little bit lighter or a little bit darker of a paint. You can see in there, right here and right here, all these raised areas are highlighted with that dry brush. And it adds an extra layer of depth from your shade shadows all the way up to your driest dry brush highlights. This one I did a couple different colors as well as this one. So I started with a much darker dry brush, and I did that very heavily. And then you go to a little bit lighter tone, do that a little bit lighter, and then do your brightest tone and do that the lightest. So it creates a little bit of a gradient and a progression between those, like the transitions between your darkest darks and your lightest lights. Here you can see that a little bit more. You can only barely see the brown underneath. And then I heavily, heavily dry brushed an ivory mixed with a brown, and then moved that up to pure ivory, which is what this is. I didn't want a pure white. Pure white typically doesn't look really great as snow, especially on a dirt background, because that snow isn't going to be pure white. It's going to mix with the dirt a little bit. So as you can see all along here, you have a little bit darker highlights or a little bit darker dry brushes in the recesses. And then over here is where it's most apparent. You have those bright, bright, bright whites to simulate that kind of like frosted look. And we're going to be doing this in both 1/6 and 1/12 scale. So we have a Fison 1/12 stand here, and we're going to do a couple different variants of these. They'll come as is. I can't make the same exact curves and lines in all of the stands, but they'll come generally the same. These are actually real sticks, but I think I'm going to get some prop sticks so that these don't decay over time. And these were just set on there as it was drying. The main reason that I liked doing these, and I kind of got the idea to do it, was a lot of figures look very bland on black stands, or they're kind of like, the stand doesn't necessarily go with the figure, especially old Sideshow figures. They're all just black stands, or they just say Star Wars on it. And I think it's a good way to make your figure really pop and give it a look that's similar to like the media that figure exists in. So like for Indiana Jones, rather than just having a base black stand that you put him on, it actually looks like he's standing in an environment that he would be in, which I think is really good. And it's just a unique way to make your figure pop, rather than just having a black or a gray or a silver stand. Takes it to the next level. I'll be making a bunch of rough prototypes for these. These right now are just prototypes. This was the first one that I ever did. This was the second one. I'm gonna make a couple different ones. I plan to do like a brown earth like this, a frosted earth, a snow, a desert, just as like the bases, and then I might make some custom ones later, that's some really nice fancy ones. Each one is going to be very unique, so it's going to be a one-of-a-kind. You might order the brown base, and it's going to have different layouts, different designs. It's not going to be the exact same layout every time, so it's going to be a unique stand that only you will have.
That's perfect.
I'm going to be making some prototypes for these over the next month, and eventually we will have them put up on the website for you guys to order, and I will make them here at the shop. If you like this video, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest, and like this YouTube video and hit the notification bell down below to find out more about this awesome stuff.